I get to continue playing in this new monthly theme of what if? What if? And my talk today is called Traveling in a World of My Creation. We get to make the map. We get to make the map. Last week, Reverend Karen talked about this concept using our imagination from the collective personal, from the communal personal, as a community, what were we going to imagine into being? And today we're talking from the individual personal, the piece that happens right on the inside of our own beingness. Because we talk in Science of Mind about, pick the word you prefer, God, spirit, the universe, the mind, universal wisdom, the collective consciousness. And that we, when we think, we use that mind. It's not that there are 6 billion minds, it's that there's one mind, and each one of us gets to make individual use of it. And the good news about that is that the empowerment of that mind, of the mind, if you will, is operating inside each one of us. And the challenge of that is the infinite power of that mind is operating inside each one of us. And I don't know about you, but I know every single time I think, I am definitely, intentionally creating the map of the universe I want to live in perfectly. Yeah? You too? 100% of the time? Definitely not looking at what you see and going, oh, not that, I don't want that. Because, my friends, if we stop there, just seeing what we don't want, calling it out, and if we stop there, guess what we just wrote into our map? More of that. Every time we think something is inevitable, unchangeable, out of our control, out of our capacity to influence, what have we created? A situation that is unchangeable, unstoppable, out of our influence, out of our control. And yet, anybody turn on the news this week? Let's just take a breath for all of that we're carrying. Let's do another one and make a sound as we exhale. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's too much for our precious bodies to hold, isn't it? We weren't built for that. And so I ask myself, and odds are you do too, what am I to do with this? What kind of map of my life am I to create that somehow impacts wars and court cases and democracy and whatever happened at work this week and the child we know that's struggling and everything else? How am I to do that? And we have this temptation, maybe you don't, but I sure do, to start moving around the stuff. Well, if I just talk to her and tell her to do this, and then we convince those people to think about it differently, and then we make a law, or we have an election, or we go on the news and make a pronouncement, that's going to make everything better. And is that starting from the place of strength? Nope, because where does everything that ever is created start? In consciousness. It starts in consciousness. Before the light bulb was created, somebody thought of the idea. And then a whole bunch of people made a whole bunch of versions that didn't work. And then somebody made one that did. But that one could never have been made if someone hadn't said, you know, I think there's a way to do this. The way I see this glow when electricity is applied to it, enough of that glow makes light. Can we create an artificial light out of it? And we are forever walking out that moment again and again and again. When we look at the world and we see the world and we say, that's the world, it's always been this way. It's always going to be this way. We have declared that that's what it's going to be. But we have a choice. We can choose if we want to. I'm going to guess if you're in this room, you're at least considering wanting to. We can choose to do it differently. We can choose to go into that consciousness that we're all carrying around and create something different. And it starts with listening within. One of my great favorites of all time, Parker Palmer, said, "Before I can tell my life what I want to do with it, I must listen to my life telling me who I am." I must listen to my life telling me who I am. So that's looking at desire as the creative impulse. And that's how we talk about it in Science of Mind, that impetus that rises up from the inside, that deep wish to see something different, that is the voice of the divine or your highest wisdom self, that voice of clarity speaking within you. Now, my Eastern studies students, take a breath. Take a breath. Because I can hear you, you're sending me thought waves. But that's the ego. The ego is telling me these things, and I need to transcend the ego. Do you feel better that I said it out loud? And yes, there is the voice of unbridled, non-life affirming desire. I can just burn it all down. If you've ever quit a job in a blaze of glory, you might know what I'm talking about, where you're just like, rip it all down. If you've ever chased something that you knew wasn't yours, you might know what I'm talking about. But we can tell the difference on the inside of ourselves. One voice is claiming, grabbing, screaming, breaking. And one voice is calm, expansive, love-influenced. And so that's the first thing I'm going to hope that you take in, is that when we go into the quiet, whether we call it meditation or just, the quiet walk, the knitting time, the petting the cat, when we go into that sweet space, we can tell which voice is talking. Just because a voice is calling you bigger than you think you can go, doesn't mean it's the ego. Feel into the emotion of it. We talk about this thing called God, the universe, the divine. Sometimes I'll call it the way things are, like the universal rules of just how stuff is. It's in you. There isn't any other way for you to be here. I just can't buy into the idea that molecules got together and all of a sudden created thinking, creative, emotion-holding, relationship-building beings. You can think that if you want. The nice thing about this place is you really can. You can think that if you want and sit in these seats every week. For me, I feel like there's more to it. There's more to it. So goal number 1 is to let go of the fear of the ego noise. Just let it go. What would it be like to just let it go? Now, I know you're smart. I know almost every one of you personally, and I know this is a weirdly intelligent group of people. I believe to the center of my being that if the ego is screaming for something that is not in your highest and best, that you're gonna know that's what's happening. So we can just let go of that superstition that the ego is a monster that's gonna come get us in the night, and all of a sudden you're a terrible person. Surprise! We're gonna let that go. We're gonna let that fall away. And we don't have to think about this for just people like us, for New Thought people, or even for people of faith. Because the truth is, we all want the same thing. We just don't necessarily agree with how to get it. We all want to be seen. We all want to be valued. We all want to be loved. We all want to be safe. The people in Iran right now want those things. The people down the street want those things. The people legally in the United States want those things. The undocumented people in the United States want those things. We have lots of ways Probably as many ways to get there as there are people on the planet, right? So we can kind of crack our mind open just a little bit to this idea of who is involved in this thing that we call the oneness. Just let it peek. It invites us into some inner work. And here's the number one piece of inner work. Are you ready? Stop arguing for your worthlessness. Stop letting that little dialogue go on the inside of you that tells you that you are not worthy, that you are not enough, that you did it wrong that one time, and therefore the ego is gonna get you. Oh, we're new with every fresh breath. We don't have to carry that with us. We can lay it down. Notice where the narratives make you shrink. The narratives about your gender, your sexuality, your age, your place of origin, your level of education, what you've done so far. None of that impacts beyond what you allow it to, what you do now. Speaking from a platform that has only ever had female senior ministers. Wasn't so very long ago that there were no female senior ministers. Karen and I both grew up in a world where we were told that wasn't even a thing that we could dream of, couldn't even reach for. I grew up Catholic. It's still that way over there. Maybe that's why there's so many Catholics in this room. Maybe so, maybe so. When we start to be serious about rearranging our inner map of what our individual lives are going to look like, something really interesting happens. Because more acceptance and normalizing the natural, spirit-driven desire of our own means less judging anybody else. It means we open up to this idea that, wait a minute, what if that thing that person over there that I don't understand at all, is that healthy desire showing up uniquely in them because they are uniquely them? It probably is. And it makes us curious to understand. The best question is not, why did you do that? Or why didn't you do what I wanted you to do? The best question is, what's the desire here? What are you hoping for? Then we get to actually have a conversation that means something. Then we get to touch heart to heart. And we may never agree with their chosen action, but since when are we going to agree with everybody's chosen action about anything? I left my house at 8:55 this morning, and I had already fired my husband. He'll probably be fired at least 3 more times today. And I let him live in my house. So this thing happens within us where unity starts to not mean uniformity. We're back to that quote from the beginning, right? Sometimes I hear, I don't like it when you talk about politics from the platform. I don't like it when you talk about the news from the platform. I don't like it when you talk about gay rights or human rights from the platform. Take a breath if that's you. You're not going to be attacked, I promise. And I hear you. I hear you. But there's a little teeny bit of mistaken belief there, because what generally follows is it's divisive. Or if you're Canadian, it's divisive. That's for you, Kathy. For you. And we've gotten confused. We think oneness and unity mean there's only one, which we do believe, therefore every expression of the one has to be exactly like me, and please don't call my attention to when it's not, because that means I can't love them. Breathe that in. It does not. Our sweet Ernest Holmes, who is the founder of our teaching, for anyone who is not familiar, wrote it. That reading from earlier today was from page 4. You know we put the good stuff in the front of the books, right? Page 4 of this thing called You. We are all one, but we are each a unique walking out of that oneness. And unity does not mean uniformity. It can't. Because if we had uniformity, we would not have creativity. And everything that ever has been created or walked out has been an expression of creativity, of that place where we create the map of that which is ours to do and be, and somehow that walks out through our actions into the making of something new. Reverend Joyce, who's our founding minister, had an idea. It rose up in consciousness to create a new kind of community. And I'm sure Nancy Harkins can tell me exactly how many years ago that was, but 30 years ago, a group of people came together and visioned on it. And now here we are, I think 37 years? 37 years. Our birthday was a couple of weeks ago. 37 years later, we're still having these conversations of how can I be more who I really am? Unity doesn't make us the same, but it does make us responsible for one another. Part of the job of being the hands and feet of the divine on earth means making space for one another. And we're really good at it here in like-minded company, where we have principles to lean into that we know are shared. And it's beautiful, and I will not take anything away from what we have built together here. But the world does not need us to keep it in this room. The world does not need us to only be that way together. The world is calling out for this idea. It's important. It's so important I'm speaking slowly. And we know how much work that is for me. This is not my nature. So here's a practice I invite you to take into the rest of your week and your month and your year. And it is the question, take a breath and join me. Who is not in the room of my imagination? When I am creating this map of my mind, who is not even being considered? And even more so, who am I intentionally closing out? Now, we know when we're closing people out, right? We're aware. It's the unconscious non-consideration that gets us. It allows us to do things like drive by homeless people and not even think, is there something I can do to ameliorate homelessness in the Valley of the Sun? It allows us to know a friend is suffering and find reasons to not pick up the phone. It allows us to not even know what's going on in the world around us. And I understand the need to minimize emotional impact with the news. But if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say Iran or files or elections, how do we make an impact in a world we don't even consider? We have to know enough about the world around us to be invited into the solution. And the solution, despite many bombs and many arrests and many arguments and many fist-pounding, screaming congressional interviews, boy, those do get dramatic, don't they? The answer always starts in consciousness. It always starts with an idea. We honor shared principles, but are we allowing many expressions of those principles? Or are we turning the people we disagree with into either nothings that don't deserve consideration at all, or enemies to be attacked? That is divisive. That is not unity. And it requires us to think about it differently, doesn't it? And so we get invited into the process of cultivating our inner climate. Now, this does not mean, let me do an impression, controlling every thought I ever have and punishing myself should a negative thought wander through. That's going the same superstitious way of fear of the ego leading us aside. You're going to see things and think, that's what that is, right? The key is, what do you follow it with? What do you follow it with? So I'm going to invite you into two key questions. And this is what I hope, more than anything, you carry home with you today. The first one is, before responding to whatever is going on in your world, ask, what from me reduces harm and increases dignity? You notice that doesn't say anything about that I agree with or that I think they should do. What from me reduces harm and increases dignity? And then we have a nightly question, just reviewing. Did my thoughts today widen my circle or tighten it? Peace will never come from little groups who only agree with each other, not talking to anybody else. I had a beloved congregant say to me recently, there's always been war, there will always be war. It's always been like this. Stop making a big deal of it. And you know what? She's right. There has always been war. But I couldn't do this job if I didn't believe that there was the possibility that through consciousness, it can be different. Through our own use of our own thoughts and ideas, and then naturally doing that treat and move your feet thing we like to talk about, where we pray, we catch the vision, and then we move forward with the wisdom we are given from within. That's the path. And I can't tell you what it's going to look like, but I can tell you it is possible. I can tell you it is real. And I can tell you that the fact that you are conscious and hearing this message today invites you into the process. So I have a final thought for you from Ernest Holmes. He says, you are to believe with utmost simplicity and with complete faith that there is a pattern of your being, a real spirit of you, which is as eternal as God, as indestructible as reality, and as changeless as truth. This pattern is seeking to manifest through you. Back of it is all the will and the purpose of the universe, all the irresistible laws of being. And finally, it will win. That which you choose to think about, to submerge yourself in, you will act from. And that action is it winning. And so it is. Let's pray. We do that here. Let's open up into the infinite goodness that is always right here. And what I know for sure, beyond a shadow of any doubt, is that there is one power, one presence, one love that encompasses all, everyone. Whether they know about it or not, whether they care about it or not, it doesn't matter. It is all that has ever been and ever will be. It has created all that is and is up for the challenge of creating all that is thought into experience. And what I know is that I am of that creation, as is everyone within the sound of my voice, because it's the truth of everybody. every man, woman, child, gentle them, every dog, every cat, every guinea pig. I will stop listing because there are a lot of things to list. It is the truth of life itself. There's nothing outside of it. And so, beloveds, I can relax. I can trust that the goodness I think up is being handled by a universe that is inherently creative. I can know that I can be audacious in my claiming of peace because there is the power of all that is saying yes to that which I create. And it is true for everyone. It is true for everyone. If each is brave enough to claim something powerful and is consistent enough to remove everything on the inside of us that isn't like that through our spiritual work, it is real. It is true. We have done it before. We are doing it now. And I trust that every hurt feeling, every broken heart, every concern that walked into this space here in the Tatum campus and on the online campus, that Spirit's already on it, helping you work through it so that you are in this goodness too. Oh, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful, I'm grateful, I'm grateful. Simply to know that the good is right here, right now. And I call it delightful, as we say, and so it is.